constant contact with young people.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what keeps me
That
way
must be-
under the head.
Some days when you'll have to show me how I can find it on my phone. Even the glasses, I can read it.
It takes a half hour, but now I know how to do it.
So sweet.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate that. I'm not sure what. I think I missed it from last year. We're going to call Mr. Heisler to get me back to my email again. I haven't called him in a long time.
You have, I haven't heard curses coming with your name lately, Jen.
No, I haven't been a big meeting. Here we go. Sorry, Rose. All right, call to order, special order of business, the grammar school expansion. We just had a work session, just to let you know about going over for the board and for the community, but it was really for the board to remind us what we were doing. So we have done that. And we don't need to say anything more. We're not going to be moving it forward this year. All right, approved minutes from 12/19/22.
So, second.
Any questions, concerns, changes? No?
Abstain.
All right, all those in favor? Citizen comments? Any citizens would like to comment? Presentation of school programs, FYI items?
No.
No?
Do you have anything, Karen?
Nope. All right, old business?
We have none?
Great. Instructional issues?
Not this evening.
Look at the line meeting. Consider personnel actions?
We have none. That's just a big thing.
Yeah. All right. FYI 22-23 budget status report.
If that's in your packet, as we said, we're keeping a close eye on the bottom line of the encumbrances to see where things are. Right now, it looks like we're okay, but we'll keep an eye moving forward to see if we need to go into the capital reserve for special education.
Review draft 2 of 23-24 proposed budget.
There are hard copies up in this table if anybody needs them. I'm a hard copy guy. Anybody else need a hard copy?
Did you memorize it here?
He
I
does.
don't remember.
Really annoying.
Would you like me to go over?
Do we have any changes from,
There are no changes from.
there's no changes from last month, and I think we're good.
Good to hear about this, we have a little more details, so it's
Yes,
just a matter
and we haven't had any changes, so we know we're going to detail last month. So we'll go to the warrant articles. Those haven't changed either.
Correct. So it's at the tail end of the budget document.
Does anybody want to review?
Well, we're gonna have to place some numbers on there for the public hearing, so you'll want to go through each one. Chair.
We're going to move for number 1.
You do.
Oh.
Someone wants to make a motion for $3,104,478.
So moved. Second. So it's for the operating budget of $3 million and change there.
$3,104,417.
All right, Article 1, we're going to do this, going for it? Article 1, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,104,417 at $417 for the support of schools, for the payment of salaries for school district officials, agents, and for the payment of statutory obligations of the district with
$21,812 from various grants.
offsetting this amount from various grants. This article does not include appropriations voted in other warrant articles. All those in favor? Good, 4? Okay,
So we're voting on these, these are the numbers that we
Yeah.
presented at the public hearing,
Yeah.
so it just makes it official.
Yeah.
all right, just article number 2.
Because we don't have it decided yet, so this is the,
To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of to be added to the capital reserve fund, special education previously established for this purpose, majority.
So currently you have $210,161 in that account. So, that's pretty comfortable right now if you didn't have to tap into it. But historically, you've put in $10,000 a year to do
And
so.
what are the chances we're gonna hit it this, tap into it this year? You said we're
50/50.
50/50 right now.
Yeah.
Most years we would say you're in good shape, but this year it's.
So what we've been doing the last few years, I'd like to do it again, is I'd like to put $25,000 in that number. And the way I like to do that is by retaining $25,000 from any money left over from the budget. So we already did that this year. We retained, what, 50,000, I
I thought it
think?
was 50, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So the way that works is if we don't kick more than $25,000 into, if we don't have $25,000 left over at the end of this year, then we reduce what we retained from last year by $25,000 at least. So we've got that money in there
Yeah.
because we put $25,000 or $50,000 in there with the idea that 25 of that might be used to kick into the capital reserve fund for the, what is it? It sounds like kind of a shelving, it really isn't. What it's doing is trying to be as fair to the taxpayers as it possibly can.
Yeah.
By retaining some of the money that we didn't spend from last year into, because ultimately Pam is recommending that we boost that number up to $250,000 for
Yeah.
Jane State. So we're trying to do to get there. But we might spend it some of it from year to year if we need to. This year we might. So I'd like to put $25,000 into that number with the idea that if we can't, if we don't have $25,000 left over in this budget, that we reduce what we would save in September, we're gonna be asked how much are we gonna save from the money we didn't spend
And that will
for
just
this
make a
year.
difference from that.
So we'll reduce it, so we've got $50,000 in now, let's say we spend all our money this year. It means that we would still reduce that number that we have in there by $25,000. So the taxpayers wouldn't be hit by a $25,000 expenditure from, if we put that in there and did those.
Just moving the money.
Put this money.
So you want to put $25,000 to add into it?
Yes.
Okay. Not to come out of fund balance?
Not coming out of fund
Okay,
balance.
so it's 25,000.
It can come out of fund balance if we have a fund balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if it can't come out, if we don't have a fund balance, then we reduce the amount we retained from last year by at least 25,000. Which would actually be the money we'd be considering retaining from this year, but it's, sounds funny, but it really isn't.
I'm with you. All those in favor, Article 2? All right, Article 3 is the capital reserve bus school fund. To see if the school district will vote to raise the appropriate sum of to be added to the capital reserve fund for school buses previously.
So currently you have $138,531 in that account. You'll be withdrawing about $120,000 come this year to purchase the bus for
This school year or
well,
It's fiscal year.
this year coming up.
this fiscal year that we're in?
No,
Oh,
July 1st.
July.
I'd like to see us not
I would just say
add
zero.
that this year
Yeah.
in hopes that, again, we always overestimate the cost of the bus by about $10,000.
Yeah.
So we were usually a little bit ahead on this capital reserve fund, but we are, now it's a nice cushion to have, but I think that we can kind of forsake that cushion
Yeah.
in terms of
And we have three
other
more
large
years.
expenditures we have, so.
And we got 3 more years to raise the money.
Yeah,
So you wanna take Article 3?
No,
Not
no.
what you
Yeah. So Article 4, Article 3, Article 3 will become what's Article 4 now.
Right.
Isn't there space for that one
No.
here? Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so Article 3, again, this is the Whitney Maintenance Trust Fund. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of,
$3,000 is what we usually put in there, and that's a contractual obligation, and that actually, it usually comes, or almost, it has always come from money generated from the Whitney Foundation.
You currently have $91,400.
I think we have to put some money, like, we're required to.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
the money that comes generated from the Whitney Foundation is supposed to go into programming, maintenance,
And not a third,
no, not necessarily any kind of breakdown,
We gotta yell out for that one.
but the $3,000 that would go into the COP reserve would come from the Whitney Foundation, so you can put a placeholder for it, basically.
Point of clarification, sorry about that. The Whitney Center has 52,000 in it. Your regular maintenance
It's fine,
fund has
it's
95,000.
Make a motion for 3,000?
thank you. Second, all those in favor? So Article 4, to see if the school, this is about the expended trust fund, expendable trust fund,
Tuition trust.
tuition. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of.
You currently have $108,000.
I would say none, because we're on a higher year for Conway and Bartlett tuition anyway, right?
Yeah.
Might come back down again for a couple of years after this. I think.
Our biggest risk there is if we have a lot of students going into the middle school. Commonly, we would pay
Right.
in arrears.
Way later,
And,
yeah.
and I think 108,000 covers us pretty well for Bartlett.
4 or 5 students.
So we
So
don't,
none?
You ready to Article 4?
2 years from now is a March class, we'll have a class of 13. Keep your eye on
So you're removing that article. And then, I didn't put it on here, but do you want to add an article for just your regular maintenance trust fund?
You had 96 in there.
You have 91,000?
If you want.
no, and we had talked about that a few years ago, about what it needs to be, and we determined that 91,000 is pretty safe as far as covering us for any kind of emergency expenditures that we might have.
And plus the 50
Plus the 50 from the,
here.
For Whitney.
well, from here, but also the 50 that we usually keep in the undesignated fund balance.
Yeah.
So we're good. All right, all those in favor of abolishing Article 4?
I don't even need,
No.
I don't need.
Article 6, this is the sum for the purpose of the playground. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $80,000 for the purpose of design, purchase, and installation of playground equipment.
Where did you see 80? Because I was only looking at.
76.
Mine says 75.
Yeah, you could say 80.
All right, 75.
Wait,
Right?
yeah, I know, she kept saying 80, I was trying to
Yeah, I think.
do the math. It was
It's
something
not,
for a
'cause
budget
it's-
breakdown, and then there was
I mean,
this.
equipment that says 37.5, they have a 38 here.
It's the top number?
The total budget
75.
breakdown is 75.
Yeah, so 75.
And should we ask for the whole thing? Or were we gonna do some community fundraising, did we say?
I think that I think we need to ask for something, because we don't have any kind of sense of what kind of community fundraising efforts are going to be made for this.
So, I mean, let me ask you a hypothetical, let's say that we ask for the 75, for some reason we get $20,000 in community money kicked in,
Then we wouldn't need to appropriate that in taxes.
then the difference would just make.
Yes. Yep, that would be the difference. We wouldn't add.
We wouldn't just add $20,000 more swings.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we'll go back to the community.
So we're good with
All
that?
right, so
Yeah.
Article 6, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $75K for the purpose of design, purchase, and installation of playground equipment.
Technically, that's 4
I was
now.
gonna say, that's
Yeah.
Moving down Article 4.
Yeah. All those in favor? Superintendent, update on principal search committee?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things for you. The search committee for the principal, here you go, take one of those, kind of let you know where we're going. We're pretty much right on target. Committee's been established, 10 representatives on there. And the applicants are coming in, I think roughly 6 or so right now. Our first meeting of the committee will be on February 2nd. And then reviewing all the applicants, the qualities, the qualifications, go through the process. And then we'll have a meeting a week later and review all the applicants and decide on who we'd like to interview. Follow the, probably a week out from that, get the first round of interviews going, and then hopefully we have a rock star candidate to replace, or not replace, to take over for Gail. So, just to let you know where we're at with that, so
Yeah.
seems to be moving right along. The other piece, don't forget, there are going to be 3 seats open on the school board or up for election. One is Keith, you're filling out this term. So that term that you currently have will be a 1-year term for whoever wants to go for that. Jen, your term expires this year, that's a 3-year seat, and Micah has a 3-year seat as well. So make sure you go through that process if you're intending on running for school board.
And that's February, is when you have the deadline to sign up.
Yeah,
Geez.
it's
Something,
it's the end
So
of
it was
this month.
February 11th, so we're in the number,
Could be.
the last,
I'm pretty sure it's the end of this month.
end of this month.
It's backed up on the day of our voting, so it's whenever that is. It's down when the shit starts. But I think it is February.
Other than that, it's budget season for everybody, so we're talking about moving forward with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gail?
I'm going to pass out a document that the Health and Wellness Committee has been working on this year. The SAU 9 Health and Wellness Committee filled out these goals for health and wellness in the area of physical activity, nutrition, and social emotional wellness. And so we have adopted their document, and they're looking at different standards and objectives and evaluated where we are as a school. So this is the document that we use to go through all of those things. And it looks like in physical activity, such as the amount of recess time, our PE program, the amount of activities available after school that are active and outdoors, we feel like we're doing well with those things. As far as the nutrition, as not having a health teacher, there was some work to be done in that area, although our school lunch program and free and reduced programs and those things are all in line with the federal expectations. We're not using food rewards for the majority of students. We're addressing food insecurity, and our guidance or school counselor is working on that. We have clean water and bottle filling stations, so all of those things were pluses in the nutrition part. The area where we have some work to do is in the district teaching, modeling, and supporting healthy eating by all students by providing nutrition education. So we were looking at and talking about ways to do more of that. A few years back, we did the farming thing. I don't know if you remember, we made kale chips and served it to the children and tried to get them to try some new foods. And but that is one area that we're working on, but we still have some work to do there. And it talks about local farms, local food access in our school program because we're purchasing the lunches. It's more or less up to Bartlett to kind of do most of that work, although there are other areas. I know Kate has invited us down to see her hoop houses and be part of her program for her restaurant, so we're using that. We also have our own school garden, so we raise carrots and potatoes and cook those for the kiddos as well. So those were goals that we're putting in place going forward. And then the social emotional goals, the training would be provided to staff and on trauma-based education and social emotional learning, that's ongoing. We have the SAU-wide curriculum document that's up to date in social emotional learning strategies. We've had extensive training as a staff in those areas, and moving on to diversity and equity trainings related to that. Providing an environment conducive to social emotional learning. We say that this is in progress. It's an area that we continue to work on, we've been working on. And so there were a couple of goals within that one to fully implement the social emotional learning curriculum and address some of the individual needs of some students who need that support.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then just a little kind of news update. The snow gods have not cooperated with us very much, although our Nordic and ESSC programs are underway. Our volunteers are established, and we're doing the best we can given the conditions. Maybe we'll get some more snow this weekend, although what that succeeded in doing last weekend was canceling our ski program. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Our after-school program, you'll see there's some materials in the back of the room. We've now enrolled in this session 18 students, which we consider fully enrolled at this time, and we have 2 employees, and then Miss Kathy supporting him as a sub for now.
Great.
So that's going well.
That's awesome.
And then finally, some citizens had asked us to respond specifically to some behavioral concerns and some of the new things that we were doing. So in some of the classrooms, in December, we did a Light Up December with Kindness promotion with the students, had a big Christmas tree in the front hall on the board, and asked students to recognize any of their friends, teachers recognizing students, to put a light bulb up on the Christmas tree, just noticing kindness in our school. We've initiated some more fun team building activities throughout the school, including at our all-school meeting, and teachers are renewed their responsive classroom beginning every day. Student council will be taking over a bulletin board and preparing messages, and they completed a really successful food drive. Unfortunately, with a snowstorm, it meant I had to deliver it before we got to count all of the number of cans and boxes. But we had 4 good-sized boxes that I had trouble getting out of my car. In 2 weeks, it was a 2-week effort. They did posters, and they did a nice job pulling that together. The 4-5-6 is instituting a community snack, which means they all eat together and practice appropriate, polite, kind social conversations with one another at snack time. And we've scheduled, or we are in the process of scheduling, we've contracted Vicki Garland, who did some work years ago with some of our parents, to come and do a parent workshop or 2 on student development and what behaviors you might expect at each age level.
I thought she retired.
She has retired.
So
And
still out of it?
She's
Fully out of
freelancing.
retirement.
She slices us.
Yeah. She's amazing.
We continue to do buddies every Friday, and we continue to implement individualized programs for kiddos that might need it, and let's see, and adjust and enhance those plans as need be according to how things are going. So overall, at least in the month of January and the end of December, the buildings felt a lot better, and the kids seemed to be happy and getting along pretty well. So.
Thank you,
That's
Deb.
it.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Policy committee.
We have,
Do we have another committee?
yep, we have personnel committee. So we met to discuss the principal search committee. We also reviewed our teacher salaries as well, in case we have some openings, coming up, so make sure that we're on the right track with where we wanna be for, hiring teachers, so I think we're good with that, right?
Yeah.
Anything more on that?
Some boards now.
All right, the Facility Transportation Committee, nothing on that one. High School Options Committee, Darlene, you want to take that?
Yeah, we met this afternoon and we continue to research the 4 high schools that we had identified, which was Gorham, Robert Frost, Kennett, and Freiburg Academy. And as we move forward, we're looking at definitions for terminology, vouchers, what it means to have choice, school choice, what it means for different programs that might be available through the state that would have funding for parents to use, to choose their children's school, and we'll continue to do that over the next couple of months. And probably in April, we're going to have a community-wide gathering where we go over the information that, you know, we're collecting prior to present to the board. That's all. I'm sorry?
Finished.
Oh, I'm finished. Thank you.
DEI,
I
changes.
can speak to that, yep. We have looked and vetted 3 different people to act as our consultants going forward. We looked at the UNH New Hampshire Listens group. They sent us a proposal. Our previous consultant, Carlos, was not able to fit us in at any time this year. And the 3rd consultant is a sub-consultant of New Hampshire Listens, and so was already kind of included in that. So we're meeting on Thursday. We met with the New Hampshire Listens consultant, discussed the plan for the professional development, for some work with the school board and some work with the families. And so we will be finalizing and making a decision on the contract we're going forward on Thursday.
great,
So,
thank you. Safety Committee?
There's nothing particular we haven't met. You know, we just continue to maintain the safety protocols that are in place for the school.
Did we get any feedback on the people
For,
at the door?
yes, there was contact. So he's gonna put something in.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay,
low cost.
thank you, appreciate it.
Yes.
Whitney Center,
Okay, the Whitney Center, we met about a week ago. Gail and I were in attendance of the meeting, and the focus was on the use of this building as an emergency facility. The school board will be asked to sign off on that when the document is completed, because we have responsibility for oversight of this building. You know, I'm involved with the library as well, in a very different situation, because in the library, we have all the books on the shelves, so, you know, having that as an emergency shelter versus this are, you know, different animals. So the things that Emily had looked at for the library were a bit different when she was looking at them for this building. There weren't as many little trouble areas for, you know, people to get into, but, you know, it would be a place for people to come to get warm. There's a kitchen, there's bathrooms. There are no shower facilities, so hopefully long-term wouldn't have to be using the facility. But, you know, that will be something that will be coming up on your plate. You might have noticed a lot of different activities. The Whitney Center Programming Committee is working to have lots of activities through the months. They have, you know, they're working at 3 months at a time. And actually, I saw a flyer at my house today, so that next set must come out. And they're trying to get ahead of things and offer a variety of things to the community for little to no cost to the community members. That's all for me.
Perfect, thank you. Strategic plan? We did it last month.
Yeah, there was an update last month.
The Whitney Center shelter, we just touched on that.
Yeah.
Insurance,
Yeah, I just recommend, we'll take a look at the MOU for the shelter. And just, there are a few things that I think need to be ironed out, because
It's on the Google
Yeah,
Docs, did you see that?
yeah, I get
Yeah.
permission from
Okay.
Pamela to get it. You know, I'm a big Google user. Yeah, so we've done a few of these between towns and schools, so
Okay.
there are just a few things we want to be consistent about.
And as far as the insurance portion of that, we're gonna have a separate meeting
Yeah,
to iron that out with those that are involved. So, and now the date and those people will be notified to bring them together, so we'll have to discuss it there. Next meeting, February 2nd, 5:30 is the budget hearing. The meeting will be at 5:30, and then we'll have a budget hearing at 6. So if you have friends and neighbors, please bring them to the budget meeting, or to both, but at least to the budget meeting, that would be appreciated. And then our annual meeting is March 2nd, again, bring your friends and neighbors to the annual meeting. And, citizen comments, we have more citizens.
Yeah, I got a comment.
Yeah.
Nice to see you guys again.
Yep.
So I'm gonna come up here so the camera can make me. So I'd like to request that an agenda item be added to next month's school board meeting. And you all recall, a couple of months ago, we had a number of concerned citizens in the audience who wanted to voice some concerns to the board. And those citizens were told that the board was restricted by some set of rules from hearing their concerns. Last month, I attended and I asked the board and I asked Kevin if we could see those rules, because I wasn't able to find those rules. It's now been a month. I still haven't seen those rules. And we also heard last month, there was kind of a little bit of a flap about a committee that I used to be a part of, the High School Options Committee. Pretty important committee. The work of the committee determines about a third of the total school budget every year. And we heard about a letter that wasn't circulated to the members of the committee, but written by also another former member of the committee, pretty sharp person who's an attorney, knows a thing or two about rules. And one of the things that she wrote in her letter was, my concern is when decisions are made outside of public board meetings, like when listening posts were canceled outside of public board meetings. She also was concerned about quorums happening where board members were doing the work of the board, but not in front of the public in the committee meeting. And so you can imagine my surprise when I opened up my email this morning and I found that at our scheduled high school options committee, that the chair of our Jackson School Board had invited 2 board members from another school board to be invited guests of the committee. This wasn't something that any committee member had discussed, and so I presume that the chair was acting in her capacity as an individual citizen. And then finally, today I see on the agenda that the meeting start is listed at 5:30, but my wife and I showed up at 6 because looking at the SAU website today, the meeting is listed as starting at 6. So back to my request for the agenda item. I think what I'd like to ask the members of the board to do is to put an agenda item on next month's meeting to review standards of governance that the board is going to follow and that the community can better understand. So for example, should we have an expectation that meeting times get posted to the public? Should we have an expectation that if there are rules that are referred to, that should be something that's made available to the public? Should we have an expectation that the business of the board be conducted in public and not outside of public? And so I'd like to ask that the board put that on the agenda, review that with the people of Jackson so that we can all be on the same page about expectations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments? No. Okay. Meeting adjourned?